To our amazing viewers at Cheating Tales Lab, we'd love to hear which part of the world are you joining us from. Let us know. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. Dust and Distance. The Afghan sun hammered down on forward operating base Salerno like a punishment from God himself. Staff Sergeant Max Childs sat in the communications tent, reviewing supply manifests for the third time that day. 8 months into his deployment, he'd learned to appreciate the monotony. It meant nobody was dying. At 32, Max carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who'd earned every scar, physical and otherwise. 2 tours in Iraq, now his second in Afghanistan. Back home in Milbrook, Tennessee, his wife Harriet managed their hardware store, sent care packages every 2 weeks, and waited with the patience of a woman who understood what she'd married into. His younger sister Erica had married Brad Perry 3 years ago against Max's advice. Something about Perry had always felt off. The way his smile never reached his eyes, how he'd grip Erica's arm just a little too tight when he thought nobody was watching. But Erica had been 23 and in love, and Max had been shipping out. He'd voiced his concerns once, got shut down, and let it go. His mistake. The satellite phone rang at 2,300 hours local time, unusual enough to spike his adrenaline. Sergeant Powell handed it over with a curious expression. "Some sheriff from your hometown, Childs. Says it's urgent." Max took the phone outside, away from curious ears. "This is Staff Sergeant Childs." "Max, it's Curtis Hubbard." The sheriff's voice was gravelly, worn down by 30 years of small-town law enforcement. "I'm calling with bad news, son. Your sister's in County General. Brad, put her there." The desert air suddenly felt thin. "How bad?" 3 broken ribs, fractured cheekbone, internal bleeding. "She's stable, but—" Curtis paused, and Max heard something dangerous in that silence. "Max, I've been doing this job since before you were born. I've seen domestic cases that made me sick. This crosses every line." Max's grip on the phone tightened until his knuckles went white. "What happened?" Erica tried to leave him. Packed a bag while he was at work. Brad came home early, found her by the door. Neighbors called 911 when they heard the screams. By the time we got there, Curtis's voice dropped to barely a whisper. He'd beaten her for 40 minutes straight, Max methodically. And when we pulled him off, he was smiling. Something cold and primal uncoiled in Max's chest. Not rage, not yet. Something more controlled, more focused. The same thing that made him good at his job. Where is he now? Released on bail. His daddy, Carl Perry, owns half the county. Got him the best lawyer money can buy. Word is they're claiming self-defense, saying Erica attacked him first. Curtis laughed bitterly. A 120-pound woman attacking a 200-pound man who played college football. And the Perry family's already poisoning the well, spreading stories about Erica having episodes. Max watched a scorpion scuttle across the sand. Hunting. What's his bail conditions? Supposed to stay away from her. Surrendered his passport. Ankle monitor. Curtis paused. "Max, I'm retiring tonight. Effective midnight. I'm 62 years old, and I'm done watching rich boys buy their way out of consequences. My badge comes off at midnight, and what happens after that? Well, I can't stop what I don't see." The meaning was clear. Max had always respected Curtis. The man had coached Little League, knew everyone's name, kept Milbrook safe for 3 decades. For him to make this call, to say these words, meant Brad Perry had crossed a line the law couldn't address. "I need emergency leave," Max said quietly. "Your CO will have the Red Cross notification in an hour." I pulled some strings. Curtis's voice hardened. "Max, the whole town is furious. But furious doesn't mean they'll act. The Perrys have too much power. Brad's brother, Rick Gregory Perry, is the assistant DEA. His uncle sits on the town council. They're already building their defense, and it's working. Some folks are actually starting to believe their version. How long until trial? 6 months, maybe 8. And between you and me, his lawyers are good. Real good. Even with the medical evidence, with a 911 call, they might get it knocked down to simple assault. Probation, maybe a year at most." Curtis sighed. "The system's broken, son. Sometimes the only justice is the kind we make ourselves." Max closed his eyes, seeing Erica at 7 years old, gap-toothed and fearless, following him everywhere. Erica at 16, crying on his shoulder after her first heartbreak. Erica at 23, radiant in her wedding dress, ignoring his concerns because she thought she knew better. "Tell Erica I'm coming home," Max said. "And Curtis? Thank you for everything you've done. Enjoy your retirement." "Don't thank me yet," Curtis replied. "Just be smart about it." And Max? Brad Perry isn't just a wife beater. We've had our eye on him for a while. Drug connections, some financial irregularities, rumors about other women. He's dirty in ways we could never prove. Whatever you do, know you're not just dealing with a coward who hits women. You're dealing with someone who thinks he's untouchable. The line went dead. Max stood in the Afghan night, stars blazing overhead in a sky unpolluted by civilization. He'd spent the last 8 months following rules of engagement, filing reports, maintaining discipline. He was good at structure, at systems, at doing things the right way. But Curtis was right. Some problems existed outside the system. He walked to his commanding officer's quarters, already formulating the story. Family emergency, sister hospitalized, need for immediate compassionate leave. It would take 3 days to process, another 2 to get stateside. 5 days that Brad Perry had no idea were counting down. Chapter 2. Ghosts and Memories. The C-130 out of Bagram was packed with soldiers rotating home, their exhaustion palpable. Max sat in silence, fielding worried texts from Harriet while his mind processed Curtis's words like intelligence briefings. Brad Perry, age 29, local football hero who never made it pro. Works for his father's construction company, Carl Perry Development. No military service. 2 previous domestic complaints, both withdrawn. History of bar fights, always settled quietly. Max had done his homework during the initial flight to Germany. The base's internet connection had been good enough to dig into Brad's social media, public records, and Milbrook's local news archives. The picture that emerged was textbook narcissist, a man who'd peaked in high school and spent the next decade desperately trying to recapture that glory. His phone buzzed. "Harriet, landing in Nashville, when? I'll pick you up. 1,600 tomorrow. Don't tell anyone I'm coming. Not even Erica? Especially not Erica. I need to assess the situation first." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Harriet had been with him for 7 years, married for 4. She understood how he worked, methodical, thorough, always 3 steps ahead. It was what made him a good NCO and, when necessary, a dangerous enemy. The soldier next to him, a baby-faced private, worked up the courage to speak. "You look like you're planning a war, Sergeant." Max turned to him, and something in his expression made the kid go pale. "Just going home, private." The flight gave him 20 hours to think, to remember, to plan. Eric had 8, skinny arms wrapped around his waist. "Max, when you're grown up, will you always protect me?" "Always, squirt. That's what big brothers do." He'd been 16 then, already thinking about military service, about escape from Milbrook's suffocating smallness. Their parents had died when Max was 19, Erica 14, a car accident on Highway 43, a drunk driver walking away without a scratch. Max had gotten emergency leave from basic training, come home to bury them, then returned to Fort Benning to finish what he'd started. Erica had gone to live with their aunt, finished high school, started community college. Max sent money when he could, called every Sunday, visited when leave allowed. He thought she was okay. He thought she was safe. Erica at 23, engagement ring sparkling. "Max, I know you don't like Brad, but he's different with me. He loves me. He makes me laugh." "Erica, trust your gut. If something feels wrong, you're just being overprotective. Not every guy is a threat, Max." But Brad Perry was a threat. Max had known it then, had seen it in the way Brad dominated every conversation, how he isolated Erica from her friends, the progressive steps of classic abuser behavior. But Erica had been an adult, making her own choices, and Max had been halfway around the world, unable to intervene. His phone buzzed again. This time, an unknown number. "This is Rick Perry, Brad's brother. Heard you're coming home. Whatever you're thinking, don't. My brother will be vindicated in court." Any harassment will be documented and prosecuted. Consider this your only warning. Max stared at the message, then deleted it without responding. The Perry family was circling wagons, preparing their defense. They thought they were dealing with some angry soldier who'd make a scene, maybe throw a punch, give them ammunition for their case. They had no idea what was actually coming. Chapter 3. Homecoming. Nashville International Airport was a cacophony of announcements and reunions. Max spotted Harriet immediately, auburn hair pulled back, green eyes scanning the crowd. When their eyes met, she didn't smile. She just nodded once, understanding everything unsaid. The drive to Milbrook took 90 minutes. Harriet drove while Max stared out the window, watching Tennessee hills roll past. "She's asking for you," Harriet finally said. "Won't talk to anyone else." "Not really. Just keeps saying she wants to wait until you get there." "What's her condition?" "Stable. They're keeping her 3 more days for observation." The internal bleeding stopped, but they're worried about her ribs. One came close to puncturing a lung. Harriet's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. "Max, I saw her yesterday. Her face. I barely recognized her." "What about Brad?" "Living at his parents' estate. The ankle monitor only triggers if he goes near the hospital or our place. Otherwise, he's free. I've seen him around town, buying coffee, going to the gym. He looks smug, like none of this matters." His family strategy? Full denial. They're claiming Erica has mental health issues, that she's always been unstable, that Brad was defending himself from her attack. Carl Perry got on local radio yesterday, talked about how his son is the real victim here, how the justice system is being weaponized by a troubled woman. Harriet's voice shook with anger. "People are believing it, Max. Or enough of them are. The Perrys have been in Milbrook for 4 generations. They employ half the county. People are afraid to cross them." Max absorbed this, filing it away. Curtis, retired officially yesterday, threw his badge on the sheriff's desk, walked out. The new sheriff, Franklin Hastings, is young, ambitious, and very interested in not rocking boats. He's already declined to pursue additional charges. They pulled into Milbrook as the sun began setting, painting Main Street in golden light. Population 12,000, 1 stoplight, 3 churches, and enough whispered secrets to fill libraries. Max had joined the army partly to escape this place, the way small towns could suffocate you with familiarity, with everyone knowing everyone's business. Now that familiarity would be a weapon. "Take me to the hospital," Max said. "I need to see her." County General was a modest building on the east side of town. Harriet parked in visitor parking, but Max didn't move immediately. "What are you going to do?" she asked quietly. "Whatever's necessary." "Max." "Harriet, I need you to understand something." He turned to face her, his voice gentle but unyielding. "I'm not going to do anything stupid. I'm not going to do anything rash. But I'm going to make this right. And I need you to trust me, even if you don't understand my methods." She studied his face, the face she'd fallen in love with at a Veterans Day barbecue, the face that still sometimes woke screaming from nightmares he never discussed, the face that had promised to love her in sickness and health. "I trust you," she finally said. "Just come back to me when it's done. Always." The hospital's fluorescent lights hummed overhead as Max navigated to room 347. A nurse tried to stop him. Visiting hours were ending, but something in his bearing made her step aside. He'd learned long ago that confidence and authority could open most doors. Erica was asleep, and for that, Max was grateful. It gave him time to absorb the damage. Her face was a canvas of purple and yellow bruises. Her left eye was swollen shut. Her jaw was wired, her lips split and scabbed. And 4 drip fed into her arm, and monitors beeped softly, tracking her recovery. This was his baby's sister, the girl who'd made him friendship bracelets, the teenager who'd called him crying about SAT scores, the young woman who'd danced with him at her wedding while Brad Perry watched with proprietary satisfaction. Max pulled a chair close to the bed and sat, taking her undamaged hand gently in his. Her good eye fluttered open. For a moment, confusion clouded her gaze, then recognition, then something that broke his heart. Relief so profound it brought tears. "Max," she whispered through wired teeth. "You came. Always, Squirt. I'll always come when you need me. I'm sorry. The words came out slurred, painful. You were right. You tried to tell me, and I didn't listen. I'm so sorry. Hey, no. Max's voice was firm. None of this is your fault. You hear me? Not one bit of it. She started crying. Quiet, hitching sobs that clearly hurt her broken ribs. Max wanted to comfort her, but he needed information more. Erica, I need you to tell me everything. Not just about that day. Everything. Can you do that for me? Over the next hour, the story came out in fractured pieces. How Brad had been perfect for the first year, then gradually changed. The casual cruelty, the isolation from friends, the escalating control. How he'd check her phone, her emails, track her location. The first time he'd pushed her, just a shove, really, followed by tearful apologies and promises. Then a slap. Then worse. Why didn't you tell me? Max asked, though he already knew the answer. You were deployed? What did you do? And I kept thinking he'd change back, that I could fix him. More tears. But he didn't want to be fixed, Max. He liked having power over me. He liked watching me flinch. The day he put you here, Erica's expression hardened despite the pain. I've been planning for weeks. Saved money, packed a bag, waited for him to leave for work. But he came back. Said he forgot something, but I think he knew. He always seemed to know. For good, I met Max's. He didn't hit me in anger, Max. He was calm, methodical. He told me exactly what he was going to do if I ever tried to leave again. He broke my ribs one at a time, counting them off. And the whole time, he was smiling. Max's hand tightened on hers. Did he say anything else? He said his family owns this town, that no one would believe me, that even if they did, nothing would happen to him. He said, her voice dropped to a whisper. He said I was his property, and property doesn't get to leave. Outside the window, Milbrook's lights twinkled peacefully. A postcard small town where everyone knew everyone, where terrible things happened behind closed doors, where justice wore a price tag the poor couldn't afford. Max stood, kissing his sister's forehead gently. Erica, I need you to do something for me. When the lawyers come, when the police come, when Brad's family comes, I need you to tell your truth. Don't be scared. Don't back down. Can you do that? Max, what are you going to do? He looked at her, really looked at her. At the damage, at the fear still lingering in her eye, at the broken spirit of someone who'd once been fearless. I'm going to make sure Brad Perry never hurts anyone again, he said quietly. And I'm going to make sure he understands exactly what he's done. Justice doesn't always come from courtrooms, Erica. Sometimes it comes from brothers who love their sisters more than they fear consequences. Don't do anything that'll land you in prison. Please. I can't lose you too. Max smiled, a cold, calculated expression that would have terrified anyone who knew what it meant. I'm not going to prison. But Brad Perry? He's going somewhere much worse. Chapter 4, Reconnaissance. Max spent the next 3 days doing what he did best, gathering intelligence. Milbrook's public library had extensive town records. Property deeds, business licenses, court filings, all public information for anyone patient enough to look. Max was very patient. Carl Perry Development owned 17 properties in Milbrook, employed 43 people directly, and subcontracted to dozens more. The family wealth was substantial, but not unlimited. Most of their capital was tied up in ongoing projects, a new shopping center on Route 7, a housing development near the lake, renovation of the old Mason Hotel downtown. Brad worked as senior project manager, a title that seemed to involve more drinking than managing. Max interviewed, posing as a potential home buyer, and learned that Brad showed up late, left early, and spent most of his time at the Rusty Nail, Milbrook's primary bar. The Rusty Nail became Max's first stop. He arrived at 6 p.m. on a Thursday, wearing civilian clothes, jeans, a plain t-shirt, a baseball cap, deliberately unmemorable. Brad was holding court in a corner booth, surrounded by 3 hangers-on. Max recognized the type. Guys who'd peaked alongside Brad in high school, now clinging to his coattails because they had nothing else. Andy Hill, Sean Dyer, and Donnie Olson. Local boys with local futures, employed by Perry Development in various capacities. Max took a seat at the bar, ordered a beer, and listened. Complete psycho. Brad was saying, loud enough for half the bar to hear. I come home. She's throwing shit at me, screaming. I try to calm her down. She attacks me. What am I supposed to do? Let her keep swinging. Man, that's rough, Andy Hill said. You press charges? My lawyer says I should. Make it clear she's the aggressor here. But I love her, you know? Even after everything, I still love her. I just want her to get help. Max's grip on his beer bottle tightened, but he kept his expression neutral. This was Brad's strategy: play the concerned, victimized husband. Paint Erica as mentally unstable. Build reasonable doubt. Her brother's back in town, Sean Dyer said. Military guy, right? Heard he's been asking questions. Brad laughed. Max Childs? Yeah, I heard. Let him ask. He'll figure out soon enough that his sister's not the angel he thinks she is. She's got problems, man. Always has. Max wanted to turn around, to introduce himself, to watch Brad's face when he realized who'd been listening. But that wasn't the plan. The plan required patience. He finished his beer, paid cash, and left. Outside, he photographed Brad's truck, a lifted F-250 with a license plate Perry 1. Noted the time, the location, the company. Over the next week, Max established a pattern. He'd watch Brad's routine, catalog his movements, identify vulnerabilities. Brad went to the gym at 7 a.m., showed up at job sites around 10, took long lunches at various restaurants, hit the Rusty Nail by 6 p.m., usually drove home drunk around 10. The ankle monitor only tracked proximity to forbidden zones. It didn't prevent him from driving under the influence. It didn't stop him from meeting with women at the Mason Hotel. Max photographed Brad with 3 different women over 5 days. It didn't prevent him from using cocaine in the gym bathroom. Max watched him exit a stall, sniffing and wiping his nose. Brad Perry was a walking criminal offense. The question was how to weaponize that. Max's second line of investigation focused on the family. Carl Perry, the patriarch, was 67 and slowing down. Health issues, according to public records, a heart attack 2 years prior, ongoing diabetes. The business was his legacy, and Brad was his favorite son. Rick Perry, the assistant DA, was more interesting. 34, ambitious, with his eye on the DA's position when his boss retired next year. He had a reputation for being aggressive, occasionally overstepping ethical boundaries. Max found 2 bar complaints that had been dismissed, both involving withholding evidence from defense attorneys. Then there was Brad's mother, Marcella Perry, who ran the town's historical society and organized charity events. She maintained the family's social standing, and by all accounts, she was devoted to protecting her sons. The Perry family was a fortress, interconnected, mutually protective, with enough money and influence to weather most scandals. Max needed to crack that fortress from within. On day 6, Max finally approached Curtis Hubbard. The former sheriff lived in a modest house on the outskirts of town, working on a vegetable garden that suggested a man happy to be done with public service. Was wondering when you'd show up, Curtis said, not looking up from his tomatoes. Been watching you watch, Brad. You're good at it. Learn from the best. Curtis straightened, studying Max with the eyes of someone who'd spent 3 decades evaluating people. You here for advice or permission? Information. You said Brad was dirty beyond the domestic abuse. I need specifics. Curtis sighed, gesturing to a pair of lawn chairs. They sat, the afternoon sun warm on their faces. Brad Perry's been dealing cocaine for about 2 years, Curtis said flatly. Small scale, mostly to friends and construction workers. His supplier is someone connected to the Nashville organization, but we could never identify them. Brad's careful, never carries much, never deals in public, always has alibis. You couldn't build a case? We tried. Twice. Both times, evidence disappeared or witnesses recanted. The first time, I thought it was bad luck. The second time, I realized Rick Perry was interfering. He has access to case files, can pressure witnesses, can make things disappear. Curtis's expression darkened. The system's rigged, Max. The Perrys own it. What else? Brad's had a side business nobody talks about. Gambling, underground fights. He organizes them at his daddy's old warehouse on County Road 12, usually on Friday nights. The property's supposed to be abandoned, but Carl still owns it. Brad invites high rollers, takes a cut of the bets, provides the entertainment. Max absorbed this. The entertainment? Sometimes it's dogs. Sometimes it's people, usually desperate folks who need money fast. Brad keeps it quiet, keeps it cash only, keeps it below the radar. But I've heard stories. Bad ones. Curtis leaned forward. Max, if you're going after him, you need to understand, Brad Perry isn't just a bully. He's a predator, and he's got the protection to be as bad as he wants to be. Not anymore, Max said quietly. Not after tonight. Chapter 5. First Blood. The warehouse on County Road 12 sat like a rotting tooth, surrounded by scrub oak and forgotten machinery. Max arrived at 11 p.m. on Friday, parking his truck a mile away and approaching on foot. Years of night operations made him comfortable in darkness. He could hear them before he saw them. Men shouting, the dull thud of fists on flesh, the animal excitement of violence. Max moved closer, finding a position in the overgrown brush with a clear sight line to the warehouse's open bay door. Inside, under harsh halogen work lights, two men circled each other in a makeshift ring. Both were bleeding, exhausted, driven by desperation more than skill. Around them, 40 or 50 spectators shouted, waved money, celebrated brutality. Brad Perry stood at the ring's edge, collecting cash, laughing. He wore an expensive watch and designer jeans, looking every bit the local royalty he believed himself to be. Max watched for an hour, documenting everything with his phone. Faces, license plates, the betting system, the fighters. This wasn't just illegal gambling. It was human misery packaged as entertainment. One fighter went down hard, didn't get up. Brad laughed louder, announced the winner, collected his percentage. Nobody checked on the unconscious man for several minutes. Max had seen enough. He waited until the crowd dispersed, until Brad was alone, counting money at a folding table. Waited until the moment was right, then emerged from the shadows like something primordial. Brad Perry, Max said quietly. Brad spun, hand go to his waistband. Who the fuck? Recognition hit. Max Childs. Erica's brother. That's right. Brad relaxed, smiling that same smile Erica had described. Confident, cruel, untouchable. You here to take a swing at me? Go ahead. Give me a reason to have you arrested for assault. My lawyer would love that. I'm not here to hit you, Max said, moving closer. I'm here to deliver a message. Yeah? What's that? Max smiled. Your time's up. Before Brad could respond, Max moved, not attacking, just walking past him to the folding table. He picked up the night's take, probably $15,000 in cash, and put in his pocket. Hey, Brad stepped forward. That's mine. No, it's evidence. Along with the videos I've been taking for the last hour. Illegal gambling, unlicensed fighting, failure to provide medical attention. Should add up to some interesting charges. Brad's face darkened. You threatening me? You think anyone will believe you? My brother's the fucking assistant DA. I know. That's why I'm not going to the police. Max turned to face him fully. See, Brad, you made a mistake. You thought you were untouchable because your family owns this town. But I'm not from this town anymore. I'm from a world where men like you get handled differently. You touch me, you're going to prison. Maybe, but you'll still be in the ground. Max let that sink in. Here's how this works. Every move you make, I'll be watching. Every law you break, I'll document. Every person you hurt, I'll know. And when the time is right, when I've built a case even your family can't weasel out of, you're going down. Not for hitting my sister, though that's the reason. For everything else. The drugs, the gambling, the fights. All of it. Brad's hand definitely moved toward his waistband this time. Max saw the bulge. A pistol, probably a 9mm. Pull that gun, Max said conversationally, and I'll take it away and beat you to death with it. Your choice. For the first time, uncertainty flickered in Brad's eyes. He was used to intimidating people, used to his size and status being enough. But Max had spent a decade facing people who wanted him dead, who had actual training, who wouldn't hesitate. Brad was a bully with a gun. Max was a soldier with purpose. Brad's hand slowly moved away from his waistband. You're making a big mistake. No, you made the mistake. You put your hands on my sister. You broke her bones and smiled about it. You thought you'd get away with it. Max stepped closer, voice dropping. But I'm home now, Brad. And I'm very good at my job. He walked away, leaving Brad standing alone in the warehouse with the unconscious fighter and the sudden understanding that his world had just shifted on its axis. Max drove home, adrenaline singing in his veins. This was just the opening move, establishing dominance, making Brad understand this wasn't going to be a simple confrontation. This was going to be a dismantling. At home, Harriet waited up. Well, phase 1 complete. He knows I'm coming for him. What's phase 2? Max pulled out his phone, scrolling through the footage he'd captured, turning his family against him. The Perrys protect Brad because he's one of them. But what happens when protecting him becomes too expensive? Chapter 6, Pressure Points. The next morning, Max visited Roman Leon, Milbrook's only private investigator. Roman was ex-military himself. Marines, 2 tours, now making a living following cheating spouses and running background checks. Need a job done, Max said, sliding an envelope across Roman's desk. Complete background on Brad Perry. Everything. Financial records, medical records, criminal history beyond what's public. Phone records if you can get them. I need to know every skeleton in his closet. Roman opened the envelope, counting the cash. This is $5,000. Keep what you use, return the rest. But I need it fast. 2 weeks. Why the rush? Because my sister's in the hospital with a broken face, and the man who put her there is walking around town like he's untouchable. Roman's expression hardened. Heard about that. Everyone has. Half the town's on Brad's side because the Perrys employ their cousins or own their mortgages. The other half's too scared to speak up. He pushed the envelope back. Keep your money. This one's on the house. Roman, I said keep it. I've got a daughter. Thinking about what that bastard did to your sister makes me want to put a bullet into myself. Roman stood, extending his hand. 2 weeks. I'll get you everything. Max shook his hand, feeling the fellowship of combat veterans, the understanding that some things mattered more than money, that brotherhood extended beyond blood. Next stop, Jackie Gordon, an investigative reporter for the Milbrook Gazette. Jackie had a reputation for dogged journalism that had won her statewide recognition but kept her stuck in small-town purgatory because she wouldn't play politics. Mr. Childs, she said, gesturing to a chair in her cluttered office. I've been hoping you'd reach out. I want to interview Erica. Not yet, but I have a story for you. Max pulled out his phone, showing her the warehouse footage. Illegal fighting ring run by Brad Perry on his family's property. Gambling, violence, possible drug distribution. All documented, all verified. Jackie's eyes lit up. This is incredible. But you understand what publishing this means. The Perrys will come after me. They'll sue. They'll pressure my editor. They'll make my life hell. I know. That's why I'm giving you more than just the story. Max slid a USB drive across her desk. That contains financial records showing Carl Perry Development has been laundering money through shell companies. Nothing concrete enough for criminal charges, but enough to raise serious questions. Questions that might interest the IRS, the State Business Commission, maybe even federal investigators. Where did you get this? Does it matter? Jackie studied him, then smiled slowly. You're not just after Brad. You're going after the whole family. Brad's protection comes from his family. Remove the protection, he's just another criminal. Max leaned forward. Publish the fighting ring story. Make it loud. Make the Perrys defend it. And when they do, when they lie and spin and use their influence, publish the financial information. Show the town who they really are. This could end my career. Or make it. Your choice. Jackie looked at the USB drive like it was a live grenade. Then she picked it up. I'll need to verify everything independently. Could take a week. Take 2. I need other pieces in place first. Over the next 10 days, Max executed his strategy with military precision. He met with Terrence Keller, a local attorney who'd lost 3 cases to Rick Perry's prosecutorial misconduct. Gave him copies of the warehouse footage and information about Rick's involvement in obstructing previous investigations into Brad. Terrence had been waiting years for leverage against the Perry family. He approached Michelle Abbott, president of the county medical board. Shared information about Brad's cocaine use, his attendance at illegal fights where medical attention was deliberately withheld. Michelle had a son who'd overdosed on drugs sold by someone in Brad's circle. She'd been powerless then, but not anymore. He visited Seth Moran, a rival construction contractor who'd been systematically frozen out of county projects by Carl Perry's political connections. Showed him the financial irregularities, the potential for investigation. Seth had the resources and motivation to push for official inquiries. Each person Max approached represented a pressure point. Alone, they were powerless against the Perry family. Together, coordinated, they became an avalanche. On day 12, the Milbrook Gazette published its Expose, underground fighting ring operated by local developer's son. The article included photos, witness statements, and enough detail to make it impossible to dismiss. The town exploded. Brad was arrested that afternoon, bail set at $50,000. Carl Perry paid it immediately, but the damage was done. The story went regional, then statewide. News trucks appeared in Milbrook. The Perry family's carefully maintained reputation cracked. That night, Max's phone rang. Unknown number. "This is Carl Perry. I want to talk." "About what?" "About ending this. Whatever you want, we can negotiate. But you need to back off my family." Max smiled in the darkness of his truck. "We'll talk. Tomorrow, noon, at the Copper Kettle. Come alone." He hung up, knowing he'd just moved into the endgame. Chapter 7. The Trap Springs. The Copper Kettle was Milbrook's oldest diner, neutral ground where deals had been made for generations. Max arrived first, choosing a booth in the back with clear sight lines to both exits. Old habits. Carl Perry entered at noon precisely, looking diminished. The patriarch who'd ruled Milbrook for decades suddenly seemed his age, 67, tired under siege. "Mr. Childs," he said, sliding into the booth. "Thank you for meeting me. You wanted to negotiate." "I'm listening." Carl folded his hands on the table. "My son made a mistake. A terrible mistake. What he did to your sister was inexcusable, and I won't defend it. But destroying my entire family? That seems excessive. Your entire family protected him, made excuses, used influence to help him evade consequences. That makes you all complicit. I can make this right. Hospital bills paid, compensation for Erica's trauma, a formal apology. Brad will plead guilty, accept whatever sentence the court gives. No more fighting it." "Not enough." Carl's jaw tightened. "What do you want? Name your price." "You don't understand," Max said quietly. "This isn't about money. It's about justice. Your son beat my sister for 40 minutes while she begged him to stop. He broke her bones methodically, smiled while he did it, then walked free because your family bought his freedom. I don't want your money. I want everyone to see exactly who the Perrys are. We've been part of this community for 4 generations, and you've been corrupt for at least 2. I know about the financial irregularities, the shell companies, the tax evasion. I know Rick's been interfering with investigations. I know Brad's been dealing drugs with your knowledge, using your properties for his illegal activities." Max leaned forward. "The only question now is whether this ends with Brad in prison or your entire family." Carl's face went pale. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" "Check your email." Carl pulled out his phone, his expression darkening as he read. Max had sent him a preview, just enough for the financial evidence to prove it was real. "This information goes public in 3 days," Max said. Unless what?" "Brad confesses, not just to the assault, to everything. The drugs, the gambling, the fights. He gives up his supplier, names everyone involved, cooperates fully. Rick resigns from the DA's office, and your family steps back from community influence. No more backroom deals, no more buying favorable treatment. That would destroy us." "No, it would make you honest. There's a difference." Carl stared at him, decades of power and privilege warring with the reality of genuine consequences. "And if we do this, you'll stop? No more investigations, no more pressure." "I'll stop. But understand something. If anyone in your family ever goes near my sister again, if they try to retaliate against her or me, all bets are off. I'll burn everything to the ground and sleep like a baby afterward. You're asking me to betray my son. I'm asking you to hold him accountable. Something you should have done years ago." Max stood. 3 days, Mr. Perry. Make your choice." He walked out, leaving Carl Perry alone with his sins. Chapter 8. The Reckoning. Max didn't wait 3 days. He'd learned in combat that sometimes the best strategy was aggressive unpredictability. That night, Brad Perry went to the Rusty Nail, as usual, surrounded by his shrinking circle of friends. The warehouse arrest had spooked some of them. They could smell blood in the water. Max entered at 9 p.m., walking directly to Brad's booth. "We need to talk," he said. "Outside." Brad laughed, but there was nervousness behind it. "I'm not going anywhere with you, psycho." "Yes, you are. Because I have your supplier's name, address, and complete transaction history. And if you don't come outside right now, I'm calling them with the good news that you've been cooperating with authorities." The color drained from Brad's face. In the drug world, snitches didn't last long. "You're lying." Max pulled out his phone, showed him a screenshot. Names, dates, amounts. Roman Leon had earned his reputation. 5 minutes. Outside, where I make the call. Brad's friends suddenly found reasons to be elsewhere. He followed Max into the parking lot, false bravado crumbling. "What do you want?" "I want to know why." Max said simply. "Why my sister? She loved you. She would have done anything for you. Why hurt her?" For the first time, Brad's mask slipped. Beneath the swagger was something pathetic. A small man who'd never grown beyond high school glory, who needed to dominate because he had nothing else. "Because I could," Brad finally said. "Because everyone in this town treats me like I'm special, like the rules don't apply." "Your sister?" "She tried to leave." "Nobody leaves me. I had to show her who was in control." "You showed her you're a coward who hurts women because you can't handle your own inadequacy." Brad lunged. No technique, just rage. Max sidestepped, caught his arm, and drove him face first into his truck's hood. Brad struggled, but Max had 70 pounds of muscle memory trained to handle exactly this situation. "Here's what's going to happen," Max said calmly, keeping Brad pinned. "Tomorrow, you're going to confess. Everything. The assault, the drugs, the gambling, everything. You're going to take full responsibility and accept whatever sentence comes." "Fuck you." Option 2. I release this information. Max showed him his phone again. Financial records, witness statements, evidence of drug deals. Your supplier gets arrested, tells the organization you're cooperating to save yourself, and they handle you their way. How long do you think you'd last? Brad stopped struggling. "You wouldn't. Try me. I've spent 10 years in places where life is cheap. Watching you disappear wouldn't cost me a moment's sleep. My family will protect me. Your family's protecting themselves now. Your father and I had a conversation today. He's deciding whether you're worth sacrificing the family business, his reputation, everything he built. How do you think that calculation's going?" Brad said nothing, but Max felt him deflate. "You have until tomorrow morning," Max said, releasing him. "Confess, or I bury you. Your choice." He walked away, knowing Brad would make the right decision. Bullies always folded when they realized their victim could hit back. Chapter 9. Aftermath. The confession came at 10 a.m. the next morning. Brad Perry, accompanied by a lawyer who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, walked into the Milbrook Police Department and requested to speak with investigators. By noon, the story was everywhere. Brad confessed to first-degree assault with intent to cause serious bodily injury. He named his cocaine supplier, a Nashville dealer named Curtis Hubbard, no relation to the sheriff. He provided evidence of the illegal gambling operation, the underground fights, everything. Rick Perry resigned from the DA's office that afternoon, citing family matters. An investigation into prosecutorial misconduct was announced. Carl Perry Development suspended operations pending a state business commission inquiry. The financial irregularities Max had uncovered led to a comprehensive audit. Erica was released from the hospital on day 17. Max picked her up, drove her to Harriet's in his house where she'd stayed during recovery. She was quiet most of the drive, processing everything that had happened. "Did you do all this for me?" she finally asked. "I did what needed to be done." "Max, Brad's going to prison for 20 years. His family's destroyed. His brother lost his career. You've basically torn apart one of the most powerful families in the county." They tore themselves apart. "I just made sure everyone could see the damage." Max glanced at her. "Are you upset?" "No." She smiled, the first real smile he'd seen since coming home. "I'm grateful. Relieved. For the first time in 3 years, I'm not scared." The trial was fast-tracked. Brad's confession left little room for defense. His lawyers negotiated a plea deal, 25 years, eligible for parole in 15. Brad would be 54 when he got out, his youth spent in prison, his reputation destroyed. The night the sentence was announced, Max stood in his backyard, watching stars emerge in the Tennessee sky. Harriet joined him, slipping her hand into his. "You did it," she said softly. "We did it. Couldn't have done it without you. What happens now?" Now, Max thought about his sister, sleeping peacefully in their guest room for the first time in years. Thought about Brad Perry beginning a very long sentence. Thought about the Perry family's grip on Milbrook finally broken. Now we rebuild. Help Erica heal. Maybe think about staying here, opening that hardware store expansion we talked about. No more deployments? I've been thinking about that. Max looked at his wife, his partner, his anchor. I've got enough time in for retirement. Maybe it's time to come home for good. Curtis Hubbard showed up the next afternoon, carrying a six-pack of beer and a grin. "Heard you got your man," he said. "We got him. Couldn't have done it without your phone call." They sat on the porch, drinking beer, watching Milbrook go about its business. The town felt different now, lighter, somehow. The shadow the Perry family had cast for decades was finally lifting. "You know what the best part is?" Curtis said. "Nobody knows exactly how it happened. Brad confessed, Rick resigned, Carl's under investigation, but nobody can quite connect all the dots back to you. It's like the whole family just imploded. Sometimes that's how justice works," Max replied. Quietly. Inevitably. People get so used to getting away with things that they forget. Eventually, somebody fights back. "You heading back to the Army?" "Thinking about retirement. Figure I've served enough time overseas. Might be time to serve here in a different way." Curtis raised his beer. "To justice. The unofficial kind." Max clinked bottles with him. "To justice." 3 months later, Erica filed for divorce. Brad didn't contest it. Hard to fight from prison. She started seeing a therapist, began rebuilding her life. Some days were hard, but the fear was gone. That made all the difference. Max processed his retirement paperwork, took a job managing logistics for a regional construction company. Legitimate work, good pay, home every night. He and Harriet talked about kids, about building a life in Milbrook that wasn't defined by running from it. The Perry family's empire continued to crumble. The IRS investigation revealed years of tax evasion. Carl Perry negotiated a plea deal, financial penalties, probation, permanent ban from government contracting. The family business was sold to Seth Moran, who renamed it and ran it honestly. Rick Perry never practiced law again. He left Milbrook, reportedly working as a consultant in Memphis, his ambitions reduced to survival. On the anniversary of his homecoming, Max visited the cemetery where his parents were buried. He stood at their graves, thinking about family, about protection, about the promises we make. "I kept her safe," he said quietly. "Like I promised. Took longer than it should have, but I kept my promise." The wind rustled through the trees, and Max imagined it was his mother's approval, his father's pride. He drove home to Harriet and Erica, to Sunday dinners and ordinary conversations, to a life free from the shadow of violence and fear. Justice had been served, not in a courtroom with gavels and formal procedure, but in the patient, methodical way a soldier approaches a mission, with planning, precision, and the absolute commitment to see it through to the end. Brad Perry had thought he was untouchable. His family had believed their power made them immune. They'd forgotten the oldest truth. There's always someone stronger, someone smarter, someone who loves their family more than they fear consequences. Max Childs had been that someone. And in a small Tennessee town where everyone knew everyone's business, the story would be told for years to come. Whispered, embellished, transformed into legend. The soldier who came home and dismantled an empire. The brother who kept his promise. The man who proved that sometimes justice doesn't need a courtroom. It just needs someone willing to fight for it. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.